What if no one ever knew you existed? No song, no story, no trace. What if your entire life slipped through the cracks of time like dust beneath the floorboards, forgotten, as if you were never here? You open your eyes, or perhaps you never fully closed them. Sleep doesn't come easily these days, not with the scratching, not with the whispers under the floor, tiny claws moving through the dark, rats. The straw mattress beneath you creaks as you shift. It smells like sweat, old sweat, not entirely your own. There are lice in your hair. You can feel them sometimes. They don't bother you as much anymore. A rooster cries somewhere outside, impatient and thin, like he knows what's coming but can't do anything about it. The air feels heavier than it should, as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting. You pull the thin blanket tighter. The fabric is rough, woven by your mother last winter, but it still can't keep out the chill or the smell. Wet earth, burned wood, rotting cabbage. Something else too. Something that clings to your nostrils even when you try not to breathe too deeply. Decay always smells sweeter than it should, until you understand what it is. Somewhere nearby, someone coughs, sharp, quick, a crack of sound against the silence. Your muscles tense, but you say nothing. Words feel dangerous now, even small ones, especially small ones. You listen instead. The creak of beams above your head, the quiet drip of water leaking through the thatch, the faint murmur of your mother's morning prayer. She prays more these days. It doesn't seem to help, but it passes the time. The town feels smaller lately. People stay inside longer. They speak in whispers. They glance sideways at one another like guilty children, as if illness were something you could summon by speaking too loudly. Your stomach growls softly. You haven't had proper bread in days. The miller's family is ill. The baker's apprentice has vanished. Some say he ran. Some say he didn't run fast enough. You don't ask which one is true. You don't want to know. The morning light tries to slip through the gaps in the shutter, thin and weak like a frightened servant. The world outside waits, and with it, so does something else. Then you hear it, far off, but moving closer, the faint roll of a cartwheel, slow, dragging, unhurried, because it has no reason to hurry. A soft bell jingles with each turn of the wheel, and beneath it, a voice, distant but clear. "Bring out your dead." The words float through the morning mist like a prayer no one asked for. You close your eyes, as if darkness might somehow protect you from what's already begun. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see.
You stay still for a long time. Not because you're tired. Tired is familiar. But this is something else. A kind of waiting you've learned these past weeks. Waiting for bad news to knock. Waiting for the cough to return. Waiting for names to be whispered that won't be called again. The cart's bell fades into the distance. Perhaps he has taken no one today. Perhaps. But you've learned not to trust hope so easily. Hope can be cruel when it breaks. Your mother moves quietly beside you. She lays a thin slice of yesterday's bread on the table. She says nothing, but her hands tremble. Not much, just enough for you to notice. Just enough to make you feel something tighten in your chest. You eat in silence. The bread is dry. It tastes like dust. But your teeth work at it carefully, as though this simple act of chewing might keep everything normal for just a little longer. Normal feels fragile now, like a spider's web, beautiful, delicate, and one sharp wind away from breaking. Outside, the town stirs. Soft footsteps shuffle along the dirt path. A few voices murmur. They do not laugh. No one laughs anymore. Not like they used to. You hear old Marta's door creak open across the lane. She mutters something under her breath. Her grandson died 2 days ago. No one speaks to her much now, as though grief itself might be contagious. A child runs past your window, fast, breathless, running like children do when they're not old enough to understand how close the wolves have come. The older ones don't run anymore. They walk carefully now, as if the earth beneath their feet might betray them. You glance toward your little brother. He's awake. His eyes are wide, staring at the rafters above, lips slightly parted, listening, like you, always listening. He says, barely louder than a breath, "Do you think it's here?" You say nothing for a moment. The words catch in your throat. You want to lie. You want him to feel safe, even if only for a moment longer. But instead you say softly, "Not yet," because that's what everyone says. And sometimes words are like blankets, thin, but better than nothing. The church bell rings once, a slow, heavy tone that rolls through the morning like a sigh. Another service, maybe, or another burial. Lately, it's been hard to tell which is which. You rise slowly. Your joints ache more than they should at your age. The cold finds every corner of your bones. You tie your cloak, thin wool, worn at the edges. It smells faintly of smoke and damp cloth. Your mother hands you the bucket. The well is just down the lane, not far, but far enough to feel exposed, far enough to remind you that even small errands carry risk now. You step outside. The air carries that heavy scent again, like wet leaves rotting under old snow. You pull the cloak tighter. The sky hangs low, gray and swollen like an old bruise. A few neighbors nod as you pass, tight, silent nods. No one stops to chat. Words feel wasteful now, dangerous even. You catch the eye of Thomas, the turnip seller. His face is thinner than last month. He looks away quickly, as if your glance might carry sickness. The well sits beneath the leaning oak, its branches heavy with damp leaves. The rope creaks softly as you lower the bucket. The water smells clean, or at least clean enough. You lift it carefully, listening to the sound of your own breath. On the way back, you notice a black ribbon tied to Marta's doorpost. Another sign. Another house no one will visit now. The ribbons have started appearing more often. Silent markers. Warnings. Grief tied in plain sight. At home, your mother takes the bucket. Her hands are careful, but still shaking. You glance at her again. Her face is pale. She hasn't slept. You can see it in her eyes, that dull shine that comes from too many sleepless nights. But she smiles thinly, the kind of smile people wear when there's nothing left to say but they feel they must offer something. You return the smile. It costs nothing. And sometimes pretending is enough for one more day. A soft knock on the door makes you freeze. Not loud, not urgent, just two soft taps. You open it slowly. It's the priest's apprentice, a boy not much older than you. His cloak is too large for him, the sleeves hanging like limp wings. His face is flushed, his eyes dart, nervous. He whispers, "They say another cart is coming, from the southern village." You nod, not trusting your voice. He glances around, as though afraid someone might hear him speak. "More than before," he adds. And then he leaves, footsteps quickening as he disappears down the lane. You close the door gently. The world outside feels thinner each day, like something fragile is wearing away, thread by thread. And somewhere inside you, the old question taps again. What if history forgets you? You press your forehead softly against the door. The wood is cool beneath your skin. You listen.
The quiet wraps around you like a thin, damp blanket. Not warm, but familiar. Familiar enough that you almost forget what fear used to feel like before it learned to wear so many faces. You sit by the small fire. The flames flicker weakly, like they too are growing tired. The wood is damp again. Everything is damp these days. The smoke curls toward the ceiling beams, collecting there, weaving itself into the fabric of your home. You wonder how long it will stay after you're gone. If anyone will come to scrub away the soot, or if it will simply sit, patient, long after names are forgotten. Your mother spoons thin porridge into wooden bowls. It sloshes softly as she moves. The smell is faint, oats mostly, the kind of meal that fills the stomach just enough to remind you how much better meals used to be. Your little brother stares into his bowl. He doesn't eat right away, just steers it gently, watching the swirls, the way people watch clouds when they're waiting for rain that never comes. You don't speak. None of you do. The words feel too heavy, too sharp for this small, fragile moment of almost normal. Speaking might break it. Silence feels safer. Silence feels like protection. You hear footsteps outside. Not hurried, measured. The soft crunch of boots on wet dirt. They pause briefly at your door, a hesitation you feel more than hear. Then they continue down the lane. You exhale slowly, a breath you hadn't realized you were holding. Your mother finally speaks, voice barely above a whisper. They say it came from the sea. She doesn't look at you. She stares at the fire. Her hands tremble just enough to make the spoon clink softly against the bowl. They say rats. You nod. You've heard the same whispers. Ships from distant ports, silk, spices, and something else hiding beneath the cargo. Something small, something hungry. Your brother finally eats. Small, slow bites. Careful, as though afraid of waking something in his belly that might punish him for eating too fast. You glance toward the window. The shutters are closed, but light seeps through the cracks. Gray light. Always gray now. The kind of light that makes you forget what summer used to feel like. The town feels thinner each day, not just quieter, emptier. The market stalls stand half full. The merchant's wife hasn't been seen since Tuesday. The black ribbon appeared on her door that night. No one asks anymore. Questions feel dangerous now. You remember when people used to sing, even the drunks, especially the drunks. The songs would drift through the streets at night like soft, crooked prayers. They haven't sung in weeks. No one wants to invite attention, not even from God. The church bell rings again.
Twice this time. You don't know why. No one explains the bells anymore. You just count them. 1 for the morning service, 2 for another burial, 3 if it was a child. Today you hear only 2. You suppose that's better. Barely. Your mother rises slowly. Her knees creak as she moves. Small, soft cracks like the breaking of thin ice. She adjusts the herbs hanging over the hearth. Dried rosemary, sage, a small bundle of garlic bulbs. She believes in them. Most do. The smell is strong. Strong enough to make your eyes sting a little. They say strong smells keep the bad air away. The miasma, the invisible poison that creeps through the streets at night, slipping beneath doors like a ghost. You don't argue with her. You've stopped arguing about these things. Sometimes belief is all that keeps the weight off a person's chest. And right now the weight feels heavy enough. Outside, another cart passes. You recognize the sound now. The heavy drag of the wheels, the dull clink of the bell, the slow, practiced chant of the collector. Bring out your dead. The voice sounds thinner today. You wonder if it's a new man, or perhaps the old one has grown sick himself. The cart keeps moving, the wheels humming their soft wooden song against the damp road. You sip the last of your porridge. It's lukewarm now. The taste has faded, but you finish it anyway. Food is not something to waste. Not anymore. Not with the fields left half-harvested. Not with so many strong hands missing. Your brother looks up at you, eyes wide, voice soft. Will we have to leave? He asks it as if leaving might be better, as if there's somewhere else untouched, safe, clean. You want to tell him yes. You want to believe it too. But you don't. Instead, you place your hand gently on his shoulder, warm, reassuring. Thin words wouldn't help him sleep tonight, but a quiet touch might, at least for now. The fire crackles softly. The smoke curls lazily toward the ceiling. You listen. For the rats beneath the floorboards, for the cough from the neighbor's house, for the cart's bell returning, for anything that breaks the silence. The world holds its breath again, and you hold yours with it, because you know, somewhere behind the gray clouds, something is watching, not with eyes, not with malice, but with a hunger that doesn't care about names or prayers or garlic bundles. And still, the day continues, softly, slowly, as though pretending nothing is wrong might delay what's already here. For now, you pretend too.
Evening settles slowly, like a heavy wool cloak pulled over the village, thread by thread. The light thins, the colors fade. The shadows stretch long and quiet, as if trying not to wake anything. You sit by the window. The shutters are still closed, but a thin crack lets in a faint, cool breeze. It smells of earth and smoke and something sour beneath it all, something you pretend not to notice. Your brother has fallen asleep near the fire. His chest rises and falls, small and steady, for now. Your mother hums softly while she mends his worn tunic. The sound is barely a tune, more like an old memory trying to remember itself. You used to find comfort in her humming. Now it feels thin, fragile, like a thread that might snap if pulled too tightly. In the distance you hear an owl. Its low call echoes through the trees beyond the fields. You wonder if the owl is hungry too. The mice have grown bold lately, the rats even bolder. The floor creaks beneath your feet. The boards shift slightly. You imagine the movement beneath, tiny claws scrambling, small bodies breathing in the dark spaces under your home. They live comfortably, it seems. You almost envy them. They have no fear of what's coming. Or perhaps they're the ones who brought it. You're not sure anymore. Your mother speaks softly, still not looking at you. I heard the priest say, "It's worse by the port." You nod, not trusting your voice. She continues, "The ships keep coming, even now." Her voice drops lower, almost a whisper. "They should have stopped them." You want to say they did stop them. Too late. The rats had already climbed down the ropes. The fleas had already bitten. The cargo had already carried more than silk and spice. But you don't say any of this. What would be the use? She knows. Everyone knows. But speaking of it gives it shape, and no one wants to give it shape. Outside, another door creaks open. You hear hushed voices. A lantern glows faintly behind thin curtains. Then footsteps. Soft, careful, measured. You lean closer to the window crack. Two figures approach the house across from yours. They carry a length of black cloth, thin, worn, the kind used to mark a home. Your breath catches. You know whose house it is. The baker's apprentice. He was just a boy. You traded bread with him not long ago, or was it longer? Time feels strange now, thin and slippery, hard to hold. The figures tie the ribbon gently to the doorpost, as though tying it softly might somehow change its meaning. A quiet announcement, a whispered warning, a house no longer to be visited. Your mother sees it too. She sighs. The kind of sigh that sounds more like an apology to the world than a release of breath. "We must stay inside more," she says softly. You nod again. It's not new advice, but each time it's said, it feels heavier, as though the walls are closing in, inch by inch, each time another ribbon appears. The night grows colder. The fire has shrunk to a small glow, like a tired eye slowly closing. The silence deepens. You hear no laughter from the tavern tonight, no songs drifting through the streets, not even the stray bark of a dog, just the owl, still calling, still hungry. Your mother finishes her stitching and folds the tunic neatly beside her. Her fingers move slowly now. She's more tired than she admits. You both are. Sleep feels like a stranger these days. Even when your eyes close, your mind stays awake, listening for the cough, the cart, the bell. Your brother stirs in his sleep. He murmurs softly. You hear one word. Father. You swallow hard. Your father's grave lies at the edge of the old cemetery. His cross leans slightly now. The wood rots faster than memories fade. You wonder if he's luckier than you. At least he didn't have to watch this. At least he was spared the waiting, the slow, steady approach of something you can't see but feel pressing closer each day. A knock. Soft. Not at your door. Farther down the lane. 3 knocks this time, even softer than before. You close your eyes, picturing it. Another home, another visit, another ribbon. The world feels smaller, as if the village itself is shrinking with each new black cloth tied to a doorpost, as though the streets are folding in on themselves one by one, house by house. The fire cracks once, softly. You listen to the fading crackle. The warmth on your skin is faint. Your eyelids grow heavy, not because you're safe, but because your body can no longer hold the weight of being awake. There's nothing more to do tonight, nothing more to say, just the quiet waiting. And somewhere, beneath the floorboards, the rats still whisper in the dark. The morning arrives, but you barely notice. It slips in quietly, as though it too is afraid to make noise. The light that finds its way through the shutters feels pale, weak, as if even the sun is growing tired. You sit at the table, staring at the chipped wooden bowl in front of you. Inside, a thin broth, mostly water. The last carrot was used 2 days ago. The fields outside the village are untended now. The farmers have vanished, some to illness, some to fear, and some to graves. You sip slowly, careful not to make a sound. The silence has become a kind of unwritten rule in the village. No one speaks more than they must. No one sings. Even the children whisper now, as if their voices might summon something listening just beyond the trees. Your brother sits across from you. His small hands cup the bowl carefully, like it might escape if he's not gentle. His eyes are tired, not from sleep, but from the kind of weariness that children should not know. A weight placed too early on thin shoulders. Outside, a crow calls once, sharp and lonely. The sound echoes through the quiet like a crack in glass. You glance toward the window. The street is empty. A few doors remain marked with ribbons, others unmarked but equally abandoned. Whether from death or fear, you're no longer sure. Your mother stirs a pot over the small fire. The flame is weak again. The woodpile grows smaller each day. Her shoulders slope lower than they used to. Each movement she makes carries a slowness, like she's dragging something invisible behind her. Grief, perhaps, or dread, or simply exhaustion. She doesn't speak of it. You don't ask. There's nothing new to say. The same fears, the same emptiness, spoken too many times, grow heavier with each repetition. From outside comes the faint creak of cartwheels again. You close your eyes. You know the sound now better than your own heartbeat. The dull wooden rhythm, the dragging bell, the voice, softer than before, calling through the morning fog. Bring out your dead. The words float across the village like a tired chant. Not cruel, not angry, just steady. As though it's always been part of the morning routine. Your mother pauses her stirring. Just for a moment, long enough for you to notice. Then she continues. Because that's all anyone can do now. Continue. As though pretending that motion itself might hold back what comes next. Your brother asks quietly, "Why does he keep coming if no one answers him?" His voice is small, almost like he regrets asking as soon as the words leave him. You look at him for a moment. He's young enough to believe there might still be answers, but old enough to feel the truth pressing at the edges of his thoughts. You answer softly, "He comes because there will always be someone, one day." Your words hang in the air. They feel heavier than you intended. He nods, though you can see the way his small mouth pulls tight, as if trying to swallow fear like spoiled milk. The cart continues its slow journey down the lane. The bell jingles faintly. The wheels creak. The voice grows softer as it moves away. But you know it will return tomorrow. It always does. A breeze slips through the cracks in the shutters. The air carries the scent of wet earth again, but underneath it, something sharper now. Rot. It's faint, but present. A smell you recognize too easily. You've smelled it near the stream, behind Marta's house, near the churchyard. It always lingers, even after the carts have passed. Your mother finishes stirring and carefully ladles a small portion into each bowl. Her hands shake slightly. The broth sloshes against the wood. None of you mention it. There's no need. Everyone's hands tremble now. That's simply how things are. You sip slowly, tasting more water than flavor. Your stomach doesn't complain. Hunger has taught it patience. You've grown good at pretending the broth is richer than it is, as if convincing your tongue might fool your belly. The door rattles softly as another breeze pushes against it. The latch holds, for now. Beyond the door, you hear a voice, soft, hurried. A conversation between neighbors, whispers carried by the wind. They say the Lord's manor has closed its gates. Even the servants? All of them, locked inside. Do you think they'll survive? No one survives this. The voices drift away as quickly as they came. You stare at the window, imagining the manor on the hill, tall stone walls, iron gates, fat stores of food. Safe, perhaps. But walls do not stop fleas, or breath, or time. They only delay. Your mother sits down beside you, setting her empty bowl aside. She closes her eyes for a moment, as if the silence might offer some small comfort. Or perhaps she is praying again. You're not sure anymore where her prayers end and her sighs begin. The light outside grows thinner still. Evening approaches, though it feels like the day never fully awoke. You hear no church bells today. Not one. And somehow that feels worse. The silence of the bells, the absence of ritual, the quiet surrender of even the priest's hands. You lean your head against the wooden beam beside you. The wood is cool, rough beneath your skin. It smells of old smoke, damp wool, and faintly, always faintly now, the sweet, wrong scent of decay carried on the wind. Your brother stirs in his seat, yawning softly. His eyelids droop. Your mother hums again, the same old tune. A lullaby, meant to quiet the world just enough for sleep to find you. You listen. To the soft crackle of the dying fire, to the wind, to the rats beneath the floor whispering still. And you wonder, as you often do now, what if history never remembers any of this? What if you all fade like the morning mist, here but only briefly? No story, no song, just silence. And then, nothing. But for tonight, you are still here. And the fire, though small, is still warm. The next morning feels thinner, lighter somehow, as though the world itself has lost weight. Not in a way that brings comfort, in a way that leaves you floating, slightly unanchored, like walking through a house after the furniture has been carried away. You step outside for the first time in days. The door creaks softly behind you, as though reluctant to open. The air smells of damp earth and smoke again, but beneath it, faint, always faint, something else. That other smell, the one you no longer name. The village feels hollow. The wind moves through the streets with no one to push against. Curtains sway behind shuttered windows. Some hang loose, forgotten. Others are tied shut with small scraps of cloth. The black ribbons flutter gently in the breeze, marking doors like quiet tombstones. You count them as you walk. Not on purpose, it just happens. The mind keeps track of such things, even when you wish it wouldn't. There are more than yesterday, always more. The baker's stall is empty. The loaves have been gone for days. A few broken baskets remain, as though they too have given up waiting for customers. The butcher's block is clean, too clean, washed again and again by rain and absence. The metal hook above it swings softly, creaking like a tired metronome keeping time for ghosts. Your boots leave soft prints in the mud as you walk. No other footprints join yours. No merchants shouting, no children playing. Only your steps and the wind. You pass old Marta's house. The ribbon still hangs on her door, but now the door stands open, not wide, just enough for the wind to slip inside. You do not look. You don't need to. You've seen enough doors like it. You've heard enough stories. You keep walking. The church tower rises above the village, leaning slightly as though even stone has grown weary. The bell rope sways gently, untouched. No one rang it today. Not yet. Perhaps not ever again. The priest's apprentice sits on the steps, head bowed, fingers tracing invisible lines on his knee. He looks up briefly as you approach. His eyes are swollen, ringed with purple shadows. He opens his mouth as if to speak, but closes it again. There is nothing new to say. He looks away. You keep moving. A stray dog wanders near the well, ribs showing beneath thin fur. It sniffs the ground half-heartedly, tail low. It pauses when it sees you but does not run. Even fear feels tired now. You stop at the well. The bucket is still there, resting against the stone. The rope creaks softly in the breeze. You lower it slowly, listening to the soft splash as it meets the water. The echo bounces back up like a whisper from something far below. You pull the bucket up, your arms weaker than you remember. The water is clear. At least it appears clear. You hope that's enough. Hope is thin these days, but it's still something. You fill your small jug and turn to head home. The street stretches ahead of you, long and empty. The wind carries faint sounds, nothing clear, just suggestions. A creak, a distant cough, the flap of a loose shutter. Small things that once meant nothing, but now feel larger than they should. The world feels hollowed out, like an apple left too long in the sun, still shaped like a village, but lighter inside. And you wonder, again, as you always do, how many are left, how many doors still open to breath, how many windows still hide living eyes behind them. The sun sits low, even though it's barely noon. The days feel shorter now, or maybe it's just that time itself has grown heavy, dragging at your heels like wet cloth. You pass the tailor's house. The window is cracked open. A thin arm reaches out to hang another cloth bundle from a nail. Garlic, rosemary, a desperate shield, as if the air might change its mind. You don't stop. You don't wave. No one does anymore. Distance has become its own kind of prayer, a silent, invisible wall that everyone has agreed not to cross. The wind shifts, carrying the sound of wheels again. That familiar wooden rhythm, the bell, the voice thinner than before. Bring out your dead. It feels softer now, as though even the collector is running out of breath, or names. You don't turn to look. There's no need. You know the cart by sound alone. It moves through the village like part of the weather. Expected. Inevitable. Unstoppable. Your house comes into view again. Small, square, leaning slightly to one side. The smoke from your chimney curls thin into the gray sky. Your mother waits by the door, arms crossed, watching for you. Her face relaxes only slightly when she sees you. Relief feels dangerous now, as though the moment you feel it, it might be stolen. You step inside. The door closes softly behind you. The familiar smell wraps around you, damp wool, old smoke, and the faint comfort of something that still resembles home. Your brother stirs from his place by the fire. He rubs his eyes, blinking up at you. "Did you see anyone?" he asks softly. You shake your head. He nods. Neither of you speak further. The less said, the better. Your mother takes the jug and pours a little into a cracked clay cup. She sets it before you, without a word. You sip. The water tastes of stone and earth, but it is cool. Cool enough. The fire pops softly. A small spark leaps and fades. The sound of your brother's quiet breathing mixes with the crackle. Your mother hums again, soft, like always. The same old song, the one that never had words, only melody. You close your eyes. For a moment, just a moment, the quiet wraps around you again. Thin, delicate, but still holding. And somewhere beneath the floorboards, the rats continue their quiet, endless work. The night comes earlier now, or perhaps it only feels that way. The sky turns a dull gray long before the sun truly sets, as if the light itself has grown tired of trying. You sit near the fire again. The flames are small but stubborn. They hold the room together, casting soft shadows that sway gently on the cracked wooden walls. The warmth doesn't reach far. It rarely does anymore. But you sit close enough for your skin to remember what heat feels like. Your mother works her needle through another patch of fabric. Her hands move automatically, not because anyone needs new clothes. No one does. Not now. But the stitching gives her something to do, something small to control in a world that no longer listens. Your brother sleeps beside you, his head resting on your arm. He breathes softly, his lips parted just enough to hum a quiet, childlike rhythm. Even in sleep, his fingers twitch, perhaps chasing some forgotten dream that doesn't know about the black ribbons or the silent streets. You envy him just a little. Outside, the wind brushes against the shutters like cautious fingers testing a door. It whistles softly through the cracks, carrying that familiar weight in the air. The smell has grown stronger again. Damp wood, wet earth, and beneath it something sweet, sickly sweet, a smell that always sits too long in your nose. You don't name it. No one does anymore. In the distance, you hear a door slam, louder than it should have been, startling in its boldness. You freeze for a moment, listening, but nothing follows. No voices, no footsteps, only silence creeping back into place, like a blanket being carefully tucked around the village. Your mother's voice breaks the stillness, soft and dry. "Do you remember the old May festival?" You blink. It takes your mind a moment to pull the memory forward, as though it too has grown slow. The festival feels far away now, not just in time, but in meaning. Colorful ribbons, music, dancing, bread piled high on tables, children laughing in the square. You nod, barely. "We made the garlands with wildflowers," she says. Her voice trails off. The corners of her mouth lift for a moment, but only briefly. The memory sits uncomfortably between you, bright but thin, like fragile glass, a reminder of how easily the world can change. Your brother stirs in his sleep, mumbling softly. A name slips from his lips, one you haven't heard spoken in weeks. The merchant's daughter, Anna. You swallow. You remember her. You remember how she used to braid her hair with bright ribbons, how her laughter carried through the square like bells. She hasn't been seen since her door grew quiet, since the ribbon appeared. No one speaks her name anymore, as though saying it might pull the sickness back into the air, or worse, might acknowledge that she was ever real. Your mother gently smooths your brother's hair with one hand, her stitching paused. "We must not speak their names," she says quietly. Her voice isn't harsh, not even afraid, just resigned. "It's better that way." You nod, but part of you aches at how many names have been swallowed by the silence, how quickly voices vanish, how easily the world forgets, as if remembering itself is too heavy a burden for these thin, hollow days. Outside, the cart passes again, the wheels creak, the bell jingles, but tonight there is no voice, no chant, no tired call for the dead. Only the hollow sound of wood rolling through the empty street. Maybe there are no names to call tonight, or perhaps the collector's voice has finally given up too. The fire shifts, a small pop. One ember leaps, glows, then fades. You watch it carefully, your eyes tracing its brief arc in the air. It feels like everything now, bright for a moment, gone in the next. Your mother hums again, the same quiet melody. You realize you've never known the words. You wonder if there ever were any, or if words, like names, are simply too heavy these days. The wind presses harder against the shutters, as though growing impatient. The house groans softly in response. The rats beneath the floor continued their busy work. You can hear them faintly, their tiny claws scratching and whispering through the wood. They do not worry about ribbons, or names, or prayers. Their world remains simple, small, endless. You lean your head back against the wooden beam. Close your eyes. For a while you let yourself drift, not fully asleep, but somewhere softer, a place where the weight in your chest feels a little less sharp. The quiet holds you gently, as if trying to apologize for what it can't protect you from. And the night deepens. Still. Slow. Waiting. The night comes earlier now. Or perhaps it only feels that way. The sky turns a dull gray long before the sun truly sets, as if the light itself has grown tired of trying. You sit near the fire again. The flames are small but stubborn. They hold the room together, casting soft shadows that sway gently on the cracked wooden walls. The warmth doesn't reach far. It rarely does anymore. But you sit close enough for your skin to remember what heat feels like. Your mother works her needle through another patch of fabric. Her hands move automatically, not because anyone needs new clothes. No one does. Not now. But the stitching gives her something to do, something small to control in a world that no longer listens. Your brother sleeps beside you, his head resting on your arm. He breathes softly, his lips parted just enough to hum a quiet, childlike rhythm. Even in sleep, his fingers twitch, perhaps chasing some forgotten dream that doesn't know about the black ribbons or the silent streets. You envy him just a little. Outside, the wind brushes against the shutters like cautious fingers testing a door. It whistles softly through the cracks, carrying that familiar weight in the air. The smell has grown stronger again. Damp wood, wet earth, and beneath it something sweet, sickly sweet, a smell that always sits too long in your nose. You don't name it. No one does anymore. In the distance, you hear a door slam, louder than it should have been, startling in its boldness. You freeze for a moment, listening, but nothing follows. No voices, no footsteps, only silence creeping back into place, like a blanket being carefully tucked around the village. Your mother's voice breaks the stillness, soft and dry. Do you remember the old May festival? You blink. It takes your mind a moment to pull the memory forward, as though it too has grown slow. The festival feels far away now, not just in time, but in meaning. Colorful ribbons, music, dancing, bread piled high on tables, children laughing in the square. You nod, barely. We made the garlands with wildflowers, she says. Her voice trails off. The corners of her mouth lift for a moment, but only briefly. The memory sits uncomfortably between you, bright but thin, like fragile glass, a reminder of how easily the world can change. Your brother stirs in his sleep, mumbling softly. A name slips from his lips, one you haven't heard spoken in weeks. The merchant's daughter, Anna. You swallow. You remember her. You remember how she used to braid her hair with bright ribbons, how her laughter carried through the square like bells. She hasn't been seen since her door grew quiet, since the ribbon appeared. No one speaks her name anymore, as though saying it might pull the sickness back into the air, or worse, might acknowledge that she was ever real. Your mother gently smooths your brother's hair with one hand, her stitching paused. We must not speak their names, she says quietly. Her voice isn't harsh, not even afraid, just resigned. It's better that way. You nod, but part of you aches at how many names have been swallowed by the silence, how quickly voices vanish, how easily the world forgets, as if remembering itself is too heavy a burden for these thin, hollow days. Outside, the cart passes again, the wheels creak, the bell jingles, but tonight there is no voice, no chant, no tired call for the dead. Only the hollow sound of wood rolling through the empty street. Maybe there are no names to call tonight, or perhaps the collector's voice has finally given up too. The fire shifts. A small pop. One ember leaps, glows, then fades. You watch it carefully, your eyes tracing its brief arc in the air. It feels like everything now. Bright for a moment, gone in the next. Your mother hums again, the same quiet melody. You realize you've never known the words. You wonder if there ever were any, or if words, like names, are simply too heavy these days. The wind presses harder against the shutters, as though growing impatient. The house groans softly in response. The rats beneath the floor continued their busy work. You can hear them faintly, their tiny claws scratching and whispering through the wood. They do not worry about ribbons, or names, or prayers. Their world remains simple, small, endless. You lean your head back against the wooden beam. Close your eyes. For a while, you let yourself drift, not fully asleep, but somewhere softer, a place where the weight in your chest feels a little less sharp. The quiet holds you gently, as if trying to apologize for what it can't protect you from. And the night deepens. Still. Slow. Waiting.
The next morning arrives like every morning does now, quiet, gray, and thinner than the one before. The light slips through the shutters slowly, as though unsure if it's still welcome here. You wake before the others. The fire has shrunk to a dull glow. The room smells of damp wool, smoke, and faintly of mildew. Even the air feels tired, stale, like breath that's been held too long. Your brother still sleeps, curled tightly beneath the thin blanket, his small hands pressed beneath his chin. His face is pale. The freckles you once counted like stars across his nose seem softer now, as if even they are fading. You listen to his breathing, steady. For now. The smallest comfort these days is still a comfort. Your mother stirs in the corner, eyes opening slowly. She doesn't greet you, not with words, just a small nod. Enough to say, "We're still here, for one more morning." And that's all any morning promises anymore. The wind outside hums low through the streets, a constant, familiar tune. It rattles loose shutters. It tugs gently at the black ribbons still tied to doorposts, making them flutter like thin, silent flags. You've grown used to the sound of cloth moving in the wind. It's become part of the village now, like the rats beneath your floor, or the creak of the church bell rope that no one pulls anymore. You step outside for water. The door moans softly as it opens, the hinges bending like old bones. The air is cold against your face, the kind of cold that doesn't bite. It seeps. It fills your clothes slowly, like a wet fog settling into your skin. The street greets you with emptiness. Again. Always. You walk carefully, as if your footsteps might wake something sleeping beneath the village. Each boot print leaves a shallow mark in the soft dirt. No others join yours. Even the stray dog you sometimes see is gone today. You wonder briefly if he's found somewhere better, or if he's simply finished waiting. The well stands where it always has, silent. The stone rim is cold beneath your hands as you lower the bucket. The rope creaks softly as though sighing under the weight of its simple task. The water sloshes when it reaches the bottom, the sound echoing up like a hollow breath. You draw it up slowly. The weight feels heavier than it should, though you know it's only water. Everything feels heavier lately, even simple things. As you turn back toward the house, you catch a glimpse of the manor on the hill. Its tall, cold walls stand untouched, towering above the village like a silent observer. The iron gates remain closed, the windows dark. A few weeks ago, you saw figures behind those windows, servants, nobles, people who thought their walls might keep the sickness away. You don't see them now. The house looks emptier than the village below. Perhaps they are still inside, or perhaps the walls only delayed what couldn't be stopped. Even stone breathes the same air. You reach your door again. The handle is cold beneath your fingers. Your mother waits just inside, taking the water with a tired nod. She pours some into the pot above the fire. The thin broth will stretch one more day, maybe two. Your brother wakes slowly. His voice is hoarse when he speaks. Will we go to the market today? You glance at your mother. She shakes her head, softly, deciding for both of you. It's better to stay inside now. The market is no longer a market, only a hollow place where empty stalls sit like open mouths, waiting. He nods, not arguing. Even he understands now. The world outside the door grows thinner every day, safer inside, quieter inside, for a while at least. The wind shifts again, and there, faint but familiar, comes the sound, the cart, the wheels, the bell. The voice returns, softer than yesterday. Bring out your dead. You close your eyes for a moment. The chant no longer startles you. It feels like part of the morning now. The way birds once sang at dawn, the way church bells once called you to prayer. Now, this voice calls instead. Every morning, every day, and always softer, always thinner. The cart's wheels continue their slow rhythm through the street, past your house, past the church, past door after door, like a tired ghost making its rounds. The fire cracks softly beside you. The smell of boiling broth wraps gently around the room, thin but warm, warm enough for today. You listen to the sound of your brother breathing. You listen to the fire. You listen to the wheels fading into the distance. And somewhere behind it all, you hear the rats beneath the floor, busy as ever, always moving, always waiting.
Evening comes again. It always does. Not because the sun sets, but because the light gives up. The world folds itself into gray long before the sky grows dark, as if night has learned to arrive early, uninvited, but always expected. You sit by the fire. The flames flicker low, their small lights stretching long shadows across the wooden walls. Your brother lies curled near your feet, half asleep. Your mother hums softly, the same melody, the only song anyone dares sing anymore. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to rest your mind. There are fewer dreams now, or perhaps you've simply grown too tired to remember them. Even hope feels thin,
worn at the edges like the blanket wrapped around your brother's shoulders. Outside, the wind murmurs through the narrow streets. The black ribbons tied to doorposts flutter like slow, uncertain flags. The village feels smaller than it ever has, not because the streets have changed, but because so many doors remain closed. Not locked, just quiet. The kind of quiet that carries no breathing behind it. Once there was music. You remember it. The square filled with voices, laughter, clapping hands. Evenings where fiddles sang long into the night and children ran barefoot through lantern-lit streets. The sound of people being alive. But the music has gone silent now. The fiddles rest. The singers have grown quiet. Or gone. The streets remember the songs, but they will not hum them alone. Your mother's voice is thin when she speaks. The last family left today. She doesn't say which one. She doesn't need to. You already noticed the empty windows as you fetched water this morning. No smoke rising from their chimney. No footsteps in their yard. Just another house, joining the others, in stillness. You nod without speaking. The village shrinks again, not in size, in breath, in heartbeat. Every departure folds the world a little tighter around you. You hear footsteps outside, soft, uncertain. Not the steady rhythm of the cart, something slower. A figure moving carefully past the window. You don't look. You don't want them to see you looking. No one wants to be noticed anymore. Even the living walk like ghosts now. Quiet, avoiding, afraid to draw attention from whatever watches. The footsteps fade into the distance. The wind returns. It carries the scent again, that familiar weight in the air. The sweet, wrong smell of too many doors unopened for too long. A village holding its breath. Your brother shifts in his sleep, murmuring softly. You catch a word, a name. Another child, one who hasn't been seen in days. You let the name pass without comment. It feels dangerous to say names aloud now. Each name feels like an invitation, as though speaking it might open a door you can't close again. The fire cracks. A spark jumps. The light dances briefly before settling back into its small, steady glow. You watch it closely. Even small flames feel precious now. Something alive, something moving. You wonder how long the wood will last, how many more nights the fire will sing to you. You try not to follow that thought too far. Your mother pours a small cup of water. She hands it to you gently, as if afraid to spill even a drop. Water is not scarce yet, but you drink as though it might be. Carefully, grateful. Even simple things now carry the weight of gratitude. Warmth, a dry blanket, a quiet breath. A day survived. Outside, the cart passes again. You know the sound by heart. The wheels, the bell, the voice, thinner than before, barely louder than the wind. Bring out the dead. The chant feels less like a call now, more like a ritual, a habit, a tired prayer repeated without hope of answer. You wonder if even the man behind the voice believes there are any left to call, or if he too walks out of habit, because standing still feels worse. The cart moves past your window. You hear the wheels groan under their weight. You don't ask who rides in the cart tonight. You don't want to know. Knowing changes nothing, and there are fewer names worth knowing. Each day, fewer still. Your mother sets her cup aside.
The fire's light catches her face. She looks older now. Not old. Older. Like the world has been carving her slowly these past months, wearing her down, grain by grain, breath by breath. The wind rattles the shutters once more. The house creaks softly in reply. A conversation between tired wood and restless air. Even the house seems thinner, as though it knows it's protecting fewer hearts with each passing night. You lean your head back, close your eyes again. Not to sleep, but to rest inside the quiet. The fire hums beside you. Your brother breathes steadily at your feet. Your mother hums her wordless melody. The wind carries the same thin song through the empty streets. And beneath the floorboards, the rats whisper on, their tiny world undisturbed.
Another day begins. You know it's morning only because the gray has shifted slightly. There is no sunrise anymore, only a slow change in the shade of the sky, like an old cloth fading a little more each time it's washed. You sit by the table. The wooden surface feels cool beneath your fingertips. The grain of the wood is rough, familiar. Your hands trace the same small groove you've traced every morning for weeks now, a shallow scar worn into the table by some long-forgotten knife. A small ritual, a quiet comfort. Your brother sits across from you, chewing a thin piece of hard bread. It cracks softly between his teeth. He eats without looking up, without speaking. Even children have grown quiet now. Their voices belong to an earlier time, a time of games, songs, and small arguments that felt important then. Now, every word feels like a stone, heavy, unnecessary. Your mother pours a little broth into each bowl. The liquid moves lazily, steam rising like a ghost trying to escape. The smell is faint, mostly boiled water with a whisper of herbs. There's not much left to add anymore, but it's warm, and that's enough. The shutters rattle softly as the wind slips through the cracks. You listen to the familiar sounds, the creaking wood, the faint rustle of dry grass outside, the distant groan of the well's rope. No voices. Not anymore. The village speaks only through its empty spaces. You remember a time when mornings carried noise, bakers shouting, merchants calling out their prices, children chasing stray dogs through the square, doors opening, laughter rising like birds startled into flight. Now the only sound of doors is when they close, and even that happens less often. Most doors stay closed. The weight behind them has shifted. Sometimes you wonder if there's anyone left behind some of those doors at all. You glance toward the window. The black ribbons still hang, limp and wet from last night's mist. Some flutter, some hang still, heavy with the damp. Each one marks a house that no one visits anymore, not even to whisper outside, not even to leave food. There's nothing left to bring. Only the ribbon remains, like a quiet signature, a record of silence. The wind shifts, and there it comes again. The cart. You hear it before you see it. You always do. The steady groan of the wheels, the hollow ring of the bell. The voice, thinner with each passing day, but still there. Bring out your dead. You don't rise to look. There's no need. The cart has become part of the landscape now, like the trees, like the sky, a constant, expected shape moving through the village, always moving, always collecting. Your brother sets his spoon down softly as if afraid the noise might offend the air itself. He looks at you, his eyes large and searching. Not for answers, not anymore. Just for something solid to hold on to inside all this shrinking. You reach across the table and gently rest your hand over his. The contact is brief but steady. A reminder, we are still here. For now. Your mother glances toward the shuttered window. Her face remains calm, but her fingers grip the edge of the table, whitening her knuckles for just a moment. She lets go, breathing out slowly. It's become a habit, holding breath, then letting it go carefully, like lowering a fragile jar onto a shelf. The cart rolls past your door. The bell jingles, the wheels creak. You hear no cries, no weeping, no footsteps rushing to answer. Just the cart. Always the cart. Even grief grows quiet with time. When the sound fades down the lane, your mother rises. She begins tidying bowls that barely need tidying. The act is not for the bowls, it's for her hands. Hands need something to do when the mind grows heavy. You listen to the wind move again through the empty streets. It carries no voices, only smells. The smell of damp thatch, wet stone, distant smoke, and underneath, always, that other scent, sweet, rotting, soft like spoiled fruit left too long in the sun. You've grown used to it now, like you've grown used to many things you never imagined you could. The day continues, though you're no longer sure what that means. Time feels less like a forward line and more like a circle. Waking, eating, listening, waiting. Always waiting. As though the world itself is holding its breath alongside you. Both of you wondering which door will stay closed next. The fire crackles softly. The broth simmers faintly. Your brother leans his head against your arm, drifting again into sleep. Your mother hums, voice thin but steady. And outside, the village continues its slow, careful folding. Smaller, quieter, still breathing, but only just.
The days blur. You lose track now. You used to count them. The days since the first ribbon, since the first cough, since the first cart rolled through the village. But counting feels pointless. The numbers bring no comfort, only weight. The sun barely bothers to rise anymore. The light is pale, tired, like the world itself is growing thin. Even the wind moves slower now, as if it too has grown weary of circling empty streets. You wake to silence, but silence is no longer strange. It's become the sound of life here. The hush of a world folding inward, slowly, carefully, as though afraid to make noise while it disappears. Your brother stirs beside you, but he doesn't speak. His face rests against your shoulder. The warmth of his breath is soft against your arm. He sleeps more now. Children grow tired faster these days. Their small bodies seem to understand what their minds cannot. Your mother sits by the fire, staring into the flames. She doesn't hum today. Her hands lie still in her lap. The stitching has stopped. There's no cloth left to mend, and few left to wear it. You watch her for a moment. The firelight flickers across her face, tracing each tired line. She feels smaller to you now. Not shorter, just less. As if some of her weight has slowly drained into the quiet around her. Like so many others, still breathing, but slowly dissolving. The shutters rattle again. The house creaks gently. The wind moves through the gaps like a careful thief slipping through forgotten spaces. Outside, you hear it, the cart, its slow, familiar rhythm rolling through the empty street. The bell rings softly, swaying with each creak of the wheels. The voice follows, barely louder than a whisper. Bring out your dead. You pass your door. You do not rise. You do not watch. There's no need. The cart will come again tomorrow, and the next day, until one day it won't. But no one knows when that day will be. Your mother finally speaks, her voice thin, like it belongs more to the air than to her. Fewer doors open now. You nod. The truth doesn't need words anymore. It sits heavy between you, understood without speaking. You glance toward the window. The ribbons flutter gently in the wind, like tired hands waving goodbye over and over. There are more now. Some doors bear 2 ribbons, some 3. Some no longer need ribbons at all. The streets have emptied slowly, carefully, not like a flood, more like a tide pulling back. One house, then another. Each departure stealing just a little more color from the world. And still you remain. The ones who stay. The ones who wait. Because where would you go? There's nowhere left to run that isn't already touched. The sickness moves faster than footsteps, faster than fear. The further people run, the closer it seems to find them. Your brother finally wakes. He sits up slowly, rubbing his eyes. He looks thinner than before. His cheeks hollow, his shoulders narrow beneath the blanket, but his eyes are clear. For now, that is enough. He asks softly, "Do you think the priest is still there?" You glance toward the church tower, barely visible through the gray light. The bell hasn't rung in days. The apprentice hasn't sat on the steps. The door has remained closed. You want to say yes. You want to give him something solid, but you've grown careful with your words. You've learned not to lie to comfort. "I don't know," you say gently, and that too is enough. The truth doesn't feel cruel, just soft, like everything else now. The fire crackles quietly. The broth simmers softly. The smell drifts through the room, faint but warm. It smells like survival, thin but present, the kind of comfort that still has weight, even if only a little. Your mother hums again, barely audible. The old tune returns. No words, just melody. The same one you've heard since the first ribbon appeared. The same one she hummed before any of this began. The only song left in the village. And you sit there, together, the 3 of you, still here, still breathing, for now. The air feels different today. Not colder, not warmer, just heavier, as if something unseen has settled across the village like a thick, invisible blanket pressing against the rooftops. The kind of air that watches, that waits. You wake to it. Your body feels slower than usual, as though the weight of sleep hasn't fully lifted. Your limbs are heavy. Your thoughts move like honey, thick, slow, but steady. The fire has burned low again. A few tired coals glow softly beneath the ash, like small eyes blinking up at you. You reach for a few sticks of kindling, gently feeding them to the embers. The flames accept them without complaint, slowly growing, stretching their thin orange fingers upward. The soft crackle fills the silence. It's a kind sound, a sound that reminds you something still works as it should. Your mother stirs quietly. She moves slower each morning, the way people do when they've been carrying something invisible for too long, something heavy. She sits by the fire, her hands resting in her lap, as though even holding them up requires too much. Your brother doesn't wake up right away. He sleeps more now, long stretches of deep, dreamless rest. Or perhaps the dreams have grown too thin to remember. His breathing is soft, steady. You listen to it carefully. You always do. Outside, the wind moves differently today. It no longer whistles, it hums, low and constant, like a song sung for no one. The black ribbons on the doors barely move now, as though even they have grown too tired to dance. The village is quiet, but it has been quiet for so long that even silence feels familiar. What's different today is something you cannot name, a stillness that feels aware of itself, as if the village is not simply empty, but waiting. You step outside carefully, pulling your thin cloak tighter. The door closes softly behind you, the latch clicking into place like a quiet promise. The street greets you with its usual emptiness. The same shapes, the same leaning walls, the same doors, some still marked, others simply closed, and above them the sky hangs low, as if resting against the rooftops. Gray, unmoving, close enough to touch. You walk slowly toward the well. The dirt beneath your boots is soft from last night's rain. Pale puddles sit in shallow dips along the lane, still and smooth, like sheets of glass. You avoid stepping into them. Even the water feels like it's watching today. The well stands quietly. The stone is damp beneath your hands. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket. The splash below echoes back, faint and hollow. The water rises, clear and cold. You fill your jug carefully, listening to the air around you. It feels too loud in its quiet. The absence of voices presses against your ears, a silence that feels like breath being held. You glance toward the church. Its door remains closed, the windows dark. Even the birds have stopped visiting its tower. The bell hangs still, unmoving, waiting for hands that will not return. As you turn back toward your home, you catch movement near the manor. The iron gates remain closed, but behind them a single window stands open. A thin curtain moves gently, lifting and falling. You pause. There's no figure in the window, no face, just the slow rise and fall of fabric, breathing like a sleeping thing. You watch it for a moment longer, then you move on. The cart does not come today. For the first time since it began, the air carries no wheels, no bell, no voice calling into the morning. The absence of it feels heavier than its presence ever did. You walk home slower than usual, listening, waiting for the sound that doesn't come. Your mother waits by the door. Her face is unreadable. She gestures softly for you to come inside, as though raising her voice might shatter the thin glass holding this day together. Inside, your brother has finally woken. He sits by the fire, small hands wrapped around a warm cup. He looks up at you with quiet eyes, the kind of eyes that have grown too used to seeing empty streets, too used to hearing nothing. "The cart didn't come," he whispers. You nod. He waits, as if expecting you to explain why. But you don't. There are no answers, only questions that hang in the air like mist, soft, unspoken, always present. The fire pops softly, a tiny ember leaping up and fading. Your mother hums again, the same old tune, the only song that still dares speak inside this house. Outside, the wind presses gently against the walls, wrapping its thin fingers around the village like an old friend that refuses to leave. And beneath the floorboards, the rats move still, quiet, steady, unbothered.
The next morning arrives, but it feels like a memory of morning rather than the thing itself. The sky is the same tired gray. The light spills softly into the house, pale and thin, like watered wine. Nothing has changed. And yet, something has. You can feel it. In your chest, in your skin, in the air. You sit by the window, the shutters cracked open just slightly. The wind hums through the gap, carrying the soft scent of wet wood and old stone. But the smell is stronger now. The other smell, sweet, thick, the one that never truly leaves anymore. The street lies empty, not just quiet, hollow. You see no movement, no doors open, no curtains shift, no shapes passing behind windows. Only stillness, as if even the air is careful where it moves. Your brother stirs behind you, still bundled in his thin blanket. His breathing is steady, but weak, as though every breath requires quiet negotiation with the world. You listen carefully, counting each rise and fall of his chest. One more breath, and another. Still here, still his, for now. Your mother sits by the fire. She hums again, the familiar tune threading softly through the room like thin ribbon. But today, even her humming feels quieter, almost absent, as though the melody itself is hesitant to exist. The door remains closed. It has been many days since any hand knocked against its wood, and longer still since a visitor crossed the threshold. The village has grown small, inside itself, like a sleeping animal curling tighter and tighter, tucking its limbs in closer with each passing night. You glance toward the church tower again. The bell still hangs, still waiting. Its silence feels heavier than any sound could. Even the rats seem quieter beneath the floorboards, their movements soft and distant, as though even they understand how thin the world has grown. The cart did not come yesterday, nor the day before. You listen now for its familiar rhythm, the creak of wheels, the soft ring of the bell, the tired voice calling out into the empty streets. But nothing comes. The silence has replaced it fully. The absence of footsteps feels louder than footsteps ever did. You think of the names that once filled this village, names shouted across fields, sung in songs, spoken over warm bread and shared wine. Now they live only inside your head, small echoes, soft ghosts, and you wonder how many are still alive to remember them, or if you are the only one.
Your mother speaks quietly, almost as if her words might break the fragile quiet. We are the last, aren't we? You don't answer. There's nothing to say. The words are too large, too heavy for this small space. You simply look at her. Her eyes meet yours for a moment, then drop to the floor. The truth sits between you both, like smoke that refuses to clear. Your brother coughs softly, a dry sound, thin but sharp in the stillness. You move to him gently, placing your hand on his back, your palm rising and falling with his breath. The cough passes. His breathing evens again. You exhale slowly, matching his rhythm. One more breath, and another. Still here, still his. For now. The fire crackles weakly. The broth on the hearth bubbles lazily, filling the small house with a faint warmth, not enough to chase away the weight in the air, but enough to hold the walls together a little longer. Outside, the wind moves through the streets like an old, tired visitor who has stayed too long. The ribbons on the doors no longer flutter. They hang limp, wet from the constant damp, their colors faded, their meanings understood without words. You listen to the wind, to your brother's breath, to your mother's soft humming, to the silence pressing against the windows like cold hands. And you wonder, quietly, gently, what if this is all that's left? What if the world beyond the village has already folded? What if this small house, this fire, this thin broth, is all that remains of everything? The thought doesn't frighten you anymore. It only sits quietly inside you, like everything else, waiting, breathing, softly, for now. The house has grown smaller, not in walls or roof or wood, but in breadth, in space that once held voices, in corners that once held laughter. Now those corners sit still, like quiet witnesses, too polite to speak of what they've seen. The morning arrives again, folding itself gently into the familiar pale light. It seeps through the shutters, touches the old wooden beams, and rests lightly on your face as you open your eyes. For a moment, you lie there, unsure whether you are waking or simply floating inside the same dream you've lived for weeks. The two feel nearly the same now. Your brother sleeps beside you. His breath is soft, shallow, but present. You listen to it the way you once listened for church bells. Each rise and fall is its own small mercy. One more moment. One more thread in a tapestry that feels dangerously thin. Your mother sits by the fire. Her fingers move slowly over the old cup in her lap, tracing its rim again and again, as though counting invisible lines. She does not hum today. The melody that once lived softly in her throat seems lost now, misplaced somewhere in the quiet days that stack like forgotten stones. The fire is low again. The woodpile is small. You feed the flames carefully, watching them flare weakly. The crackle comforts you, though you know it can only do so for so long. Warmth has become a fragile thing, a borrowed gift that cannot be repaid. Outside, The village stands the way it always does now. Silent, still, a picture more than a place. The ribbons on the doors hang heavy, no longer moving even when the wind passes through. Their color has drained away like everything else. Time has bleached them into surrender. You glance toward the square. The stalls are bare, the barrels overturned, the benches empty. The well waits alone beneath its old tree, patient and unused. No voices rise from its stones. No footsteps trace its edges. Only quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't invite sound back. The cart has not returned. The bell has not rung. The voice has not called. And in their absence, the silence has grown full, swollen with things unsaid, with names unspoken, with questions no longer asked, as though even the dead have grown tired of being counted. Your brother wakes slowly, blinking against the pale light. He sits up, his blanket slipping from his shoulders like dry leaves falling from an old tree. His face is thinner, his voice softer. Is anyone left? You sit with his question for a while, letting it breathe, letting it settle into the air. And finally, you answer, "We are." Because that's the only answer that matters now. Anything more is too large to carry. Your mother glances at you. For a moment, her eyes shine with something, not hope exactly, but something close to recognition, as if your simple words have offered her a moment's rest inside all the weight. You rise and open the door. The hinges sigh softly. The air outside feels heavier than before, thick with the damp of too many unspoken days. The village stands before you, familiar but distant, like a place you once knew in childhood but can no longer fully recall. Even the buildings seem uncertain of themselves now, leaning slightly as though unsure whether they should remain standing. You walk to the well, not because you need water, not really, but because movement feels like defiance, like a thin thread of purpose woven into the fabric of waiting. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket. The water waits below, still, cold, patient. You draw it up slowly. Its surface reflects the gray sky like a glass eye, unblinking, watching. You pause, listening. No voices, no footsteps, no cart, no bell. Only the wind threading itself through empty streets. And above it all, the faint sound of birds returning to the edge of the forest. Even they sound cautious, as if testing whether the village is still a place worth visiting. You return home. The door closes behind you. The fire crackles. Your mother stirs the thin broth. Your brother leans against you, small and light, but still warm. The house feels smaller. The world feels smaller. And yet, you are still here. The breath inside your chest still rises and falls, softly, for now.
Another day, though you barely call them days anymore.
Time has stretched itself thin, like old cloth worn nearly to threadbare. There is no morning, not truly, only light that returns in shades of gray, as though the sky is unsure whether to bother rising again. The house feels smaller, the air thicker. Even the fire struggles to hold itself up today, its flame curling weakly like a tired dancer bending at the waist. The room is filled with its quiet crackle, not enough to warm, but enough to remind you that something still moves, something still lives. Your mother sits in her chair, unmoving. Her hands rest in her lap, fingers laced as if holding themselves together. Her eyes stare into nothing, not asleep, not awake, simply present. There is little left to say between you anymore. Words have grown too large for the space they're given. The silence carries everything now. It is thick with unspoken things. Your brother lies beneath the blanket, thinner than he was only days ago. His face is pale, his lips dry, but his chest rises and falls, small, determined breaths, like candlelight flickering in a breeze that never fully arrives. You listen to each breath carefully, as though the sound of it might be a thread tying you both to the world that shrinks around you. Outside, nothing stirs. The village has folded into itself entirely. The streets are not empty. They are hollow. Hollow in a way that feels permanent, as if the ground itself has accepted the quiet as its new nature. The wind still moves, but even it seems thinner, sliding between buildings like a whisper too tired to carry words. You glance out through the shuttered crack. The ribbons still hang, colorless now, not from weather, but from being. The weight of their meaning has drained them of color. They no longer flutter, they sag, as though grieving. The cart has not come. You try not to wonder whether there is anyone left to pull it. The absence of its wheels rolling over dirt feels heavier than the sound ever was. Even the rats beneath the floorboards are quieter these days, as though they too have tired of movement. Their world grows still beneath yours, sharing the hush that has blanketed everything. Your mother finally speaks, her voice like cloth dragged slowly over stone. When it began, there were so many. Her words hang there, fragile and unsure, as if surprised to exist after such a long sleep. You nod. There were. So many voices, so many doors that opened, so many faces that smiled. The memory of it feels thin now, like a story you once heard but aren't sure was ever fully true. You speak softly. Now, there's us. The words feel small, but solid. Enough. She nods once. Her hands tighten briefly around one another, then loosen again. You can feel her sigh before you hear it, a long, thin thread of breath let out carefully, measured, as though exhaling too deeply might invite something through the cracks. Your brother stirs beneath the blanket. He whispers, barely audible, "Will it end soon?" His voice is so small you almost pretend you didn't hear it, but you did. You always do. You meet his eyes. They are wide, tired, but clear, still full of something resembling hope, or perhaps only habit. You answer softly, yes. Because one way or another, everything ends. That much is always true. The only question is how. The fire crackles again, louder this time. a small, brave pop of sound that startles the quiet. You watch the flame as it twists and leans, clinging stubbornly to its thin fuel. You envy its simplicity, its need to only feed and burn, to exist without memory, without names, without waiting. The wind returns briefly, pressing against the shutters. The thin wooden slats groan under its soft insistence, as though the house itself wants to release a tired breath. You listen carefully, but hear nothing beyond it. No footsteps, no wheels, no bells, only wind. And inside the house, breath, fire, and the soft hum of your mother's old tune returning faintly to her lips, a melody too familiar to be lost. You close your eyes, not fully asleep, not fully awake, floating somewhere in between, the place where waiting lives, where the village rests now, wrapped in its own breathless quiet. Still, for now.
The days are thinner now. You can feel it. Even the light seems to hesitate before entering the house. It slides gently through the shutters like a guest who isn't sure if they're still welcome. You sit still, allowing it to settle around you. There's no rush anymore. There hasn't been for some time. The world outside has grown so quiet that it no longer feels like it's waiting for something. It simply is. Stillness has become the natural shape of the village, like dust that settles when no one brushes it away. It gathers, quietly, and the house breathes beneath its weight. The fire is small this morning, a soft amber glow at the heart of fading coals. Your mother sits beside it, watching the embers as though they might whisper some secret. She does not hum today. She does not speak. Her face is calm, but it holds the calmness of a stone that has accepted rain. Your brother lies beside you, his head resting lightly on your shoulder. You feel his breath, thin but steady, brushing gently against your arm. His body is lighter than before, his cheeks hollowed. Even sleep seems to weigh less on him, as though he's floating between the waking and the fading. The silence is no longer something you listen for. It's simply the air now. An invisible companion filling every corner of the house. The house breathes with you, creaking softly with the wind, the old beams gently shifting as though adjusting to the emptiness around them. Outside, you know the streets are unchanged. The ribbons still hang, the doors remain closed. No footsteps, no voices, no cart, no bell. Not for many days. It's as though the village has slipped out of the world and into its own quiet pocket of time, untouched, unseen, forgotten. You wonder if there are any others left, if behind any of those closed doors someone else still sits quietly by a small fire, watching embers, waiting for nothing in particular. But you do not go to check. No one does. The space between doors has grown wide, too wide, wide enough to swallow even the thought of reaching across. The wind moves again, tracing its soft fingers along the shutters. The house leans into it, sighing gently, a tired exhale, as though it too is waiting for release from this long, quiet breath it has been holding. Your mother finally speaks. Her voice is so soft you almost think you imagined it. It feels quieter than death. The words hang in the air for a long moment, like dust floating in a shaft of pale light. You say nothing. There's nothing to say. You both understand. This is not grief. Grief belongs to those who lose. This is something different. The slow weight of emptiness, the kind that grows heavier with each day you survive. Your brother stirs. He opens his eyes slowly, their brightness dimmed but not fully gone. He whispers, "Will it ever go back?"
You turn your head slightly toward him and answer with the gentlest truth you can find. I don't know. He nods, not disappointed, just tired. The kind of tired that lives in your bones. The fire crackles softly again, a single brave pop of sound that fills the room for a moment before fading into the hush. The wind slips through the shutter cracks once more, bringing with it that faint, sweet scent that has become as constant as the silence, the smell of what was lost, of what still lingers, of what no one names aloud anymore. You rest your head against the wooden beam behind you, eyes half closed. The house rocks gently beneath the wind, like a cradle keeping time with your breath. You listen to your brother's chest rise and fall, to your mother's thin breathing, to the soft whispers of rats beneath the floor, always steady in their hidden world. The waiting continues, not for rescue, not for change, just for the next breath, for the next quiet moment to arrive. For now, the world feels thinner again today. You notice it in small ways. The way the wind barely stirs the shutters. The way the light slips through the cracks with less urgency. The way even your own breath sounds distant inside your chest. The house holds its breath with you. Wooden beams creak softly as they settle into the silence, like old bones adjusting to a long sleep. The walls feel closer than they once did, not because the house has shrunk, but because so much of what filled it has faded. Sound, movement, expectation. Your mother sits in her chair, her hands resting motionless in her lap. The fire struggles again, its thin flame curling low over tired coals. The room is dim, lit only by the weak flicker of the fire and the gray light that presses softly through the shutters. Her eyes are half closed, but not asleep, simply resting where words no longer need to live. Your brother lies quietly beside you. His breathing is shallower now. Each rise and fall of his chest is soft and deliberate, as if his body has grown careful with its own rhythm. You listen to it without thinking. It has become part of you, a second heartbeat that your ears follow, waiting for each next breath as though catching a falling thread. The outside world has grown so quiet that you barely think of it as outside anymore. It feels separate, distant, like something that belonged to a life you once lived, but now only visit in memory. The village has stilled completely. The ribbons remain, colorless and limp against doors that have not opened for days or weeks. You no longer try to remember how long. Time isn't measured that way anymore. Now it's only measured in breath, in the quiet counting of small sounds, the crackle of fire, the stir of fabric, the weight of silence, folding in again and again. The cart has not returned. The bell has not rung. The voice no longer calls. The emptiness left by their absence has grown heavier than their presence ever was. Even the rats beneath the floorboards move less now. You sometimes wonder if they've left, or if they too have grown tired of waiting. Your mother opens her eyes briefly. She watches you for a moment, her gaze soft, but far away. There is something in her eyes, not fear, not sadness exactly, but something closer to surrender. The kind of acceptance that grows when there are no more questions left to ask. She speaks so softly, it's almost a breath. It's as though we were never here. Her words float gently in the still air, light enough to rise for a moment before dissolving into the hush. You nod once,
Not because you agree, not because you disagree, but because it's the only answer that fits inside such small words. Your brother stirs weakly beside you. He opens his eyes, blinking slowly against the dim light. He whispers, "Is it over?" You place your hand gently on his shoulder, feeling how light his bones have become beneath your palm. You answer softly, "Almost." The word drifts like a feather through the room. Not a promise, not a lie. Just a word light enough for both of you to carry. The fire lets out a tired sigh of embers. The room fills with its gentle warmth for a brief moment before the glow fades again. The house leans gently against the wind. Outside, the village rests beneath a soft layer of dust that now coats every windowsill, every door, every forgotten basket left beside empty stalls. The dust settles like quiet snow, wrapping the village in soft, gray cloth. And beneath the floorboards, the rats continue their slow, careful whispers. Even they sound distant now, as though the world they live beneath is folding too. You close your eyes for a moment, just to let the weight of waiting slide off your shoulders. The house rocks gently with the wind. The breath of 3 bodies moves quietly inside its wooden frame. Still here, for now.
You wake without knowing if you had truly slept. The air feels the same. The silence holds the same weight. The house, as always, is breathing gently around you. The fire gives off only a faint glow now, barely warm, like a memory clinging to its last moment before slipping away. You sit up slowly. Your body moves out of habit, not urgency. Urgency belongs to other times. Not here, not anymore. Your brother lies beside you, thinner than before. His breath remains, though you listen closely each morning, unsure if you'll find it again. Today, it's still there. Soft. Careful. A small defiance against the still world. Your mother hasn't spoken yet. She sits by the window, not looking out, but staring through it, as though beyond the shutters there is no longer a village, but something smaller, something that exists only inside her mind now, a memory of a place that used to hold people, used to hold color, used to hold sound. The village feels like a fading map, a drawing where the lines have grown faint, where streets no longer lead anywhere, where names have been erased by careful, tired fingers. The square is still there. The well still waits beneath the old tree. The ribbons still hang on doors, but each shape feels more like a shadow than a place, more like what was once true but no longer is. You stand and open the door slowly. The hinges groan softly, a sound louder than anything else these days. The world outside greets you with its usual hush. No voices, no steps, no cart. The wind drifts lazily, swirling loose dust into small, delicate spirals that collapse just as gently. You walk to the well. The familiar path no longer feels like a path, just dirt and quiet. The old stones of the well are cool beneath your hand. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket, but even the sound of the water below feels thinner, like it too has grown shy inside the silence. As you pull the bucket back up, you glance around. The doors remain closed. No movement behind the windows. The ribbons, pale and frayed, only sway slightly when the wind allows. It occurs to you that you no longer know how many doors still hold breath behind them. Perhaps none. Perhaps only yours. But you do not knock. You never knock. No one does. Not anymore. The space between doors has grown too wide for knocking to matter. You return to the house. The door closes behind you like a soft exhale.
Inside, the air is warm from the weak fire, but heavy from the breath of waiting. Your brother is awake now. His voice is small, even thinner than yesterday. Is it morning? You nod. Yes. Even though morning feels like a word from another world. You use it anyway. Sometimes a word, even if hollow, can hold you up for another hour. Your mother stirs the thin broth above the fire. There is no smell anymore. The herbs have long been gone. Now it's just water pretending to be food. But it is warm, and the warmth fills the bowl, fills your hands. For now, that is enough. The three of you sit together. The fire pops gently. The wind hums softly. The house creaks like an old boat floating on still water. No one speaks. There is nothing new to say. Even your thoughts feel repetitive now, circling the same quiet questions that no longer demand answers. You close your eyes for a moment, listening. Not for danger, not for change, just to listen. To the breathing beside you, to the small crackle of flame, to the distant hum of wind outside, to the barely there sound of rats beneath the floorboards moving slowly in their own silent world. And to the village, folding further into itself, softer each day, like a map whose edges are gently curling inward. Still here. For now.
The world feels distant now. Not gone, not yet, but distant. Like a song you once knew, still faintly humming somewhere beyond a wall you can no longer reach. You wake again, though waking feels like a word that no longer fits. There is no real sleep here, only stretches of quiet. Long, soft spaces where time folds and breath moves carefully from one moment to the next. Your brother is still breathing beside you. His chest rises and falls, shallow but steady. His skin feels cooler now when you touch his forehead, as though the warmth inside him has grown more cautious, conserving itself for what comes next. But he is still here, and so are you. And so is your mother, sitting by the fire, eyes open but far away. Not lost, not exactly, just resting inside the quiet. The fire burns low. The coals glow faintly beneath the pale ash, pulsing softly like a slow heartbeat. You add a few small pieces of kindling, watching as the flame accepts them with lazy gratitude. The small pop of burning wood breaks the hush for a moment, then fades again. Even the fire seems quieter these days, as though it too is tired of trying. Outside, the village stands as it always does now. Still, patient. The wind barely moves the ribbons anymore. They hang heavy from doors that once opened freely, now sealed by silence. Their pale fabric trembles gently when the breeze gathers enough courage to pass. You stand and open the doors slowly. The hinges groan, a familiar sound, almost comforting now. Another small reminder that something still resists the pull of quiet. The street greets you like an empty hallway, not hostile, not welcoming, just there, present without purpose. You walk toward the well. Your steps make soft impressions in the dirt, marks that will vanish before midday. The path feels narrower than before, as though the village itself has curled inward, folding its edges closer, drawing everything tight. The houses still stand, the square still waits, but the spaces between feel hollow. Not wide, not empty, just absent. The bucket lowers into the well. The rope creaks like an old whisper. Water answers below with a soft splash, still cold, still clean, still there. You draw it back up carefully, hands steady but slow. There's no need for speed. There hasn't been for a long while. You pause before returning, listening. Not for voices. Those have long since disappeared. Not for the cart. Its wheels have not touched this ground in many days. You listen only to the wind, to the soft shuffle of dust across stone, to the occasional creak of roofs adjusting under the sky. The sounds of a village forgetting itself, of a place growing lighter by the day, as though it's gently lifting off the earth, ready to vanish quietly. You return to the house. The door closes behind you with a soft sigh. Your brother opens his eyes when you enter, blinking slowly. He tries to sit up, but stops halfway, leaning into your arm as you help him steady. His voice is no more than a breath. "Are we still here?" You smile softly. Not wide, not forced, just enough for him to see it. "We are." And that answer seems to satisfy him. He closes his eyes again, as though the answer itself is enough to rest on. Your mother watches you both. Her face holds no surprise, no relief, only softness, a kind of quiet endurance that has become her only language now. You eat together. The broth is thinner than ever, barely more than warm water now. But the act of eating remains. Hands holding bowls, spoons moving carefully, lips sipping quietly. Rituals still breathing, even if faintly. And when the bowls are empty, you sit together in the hush. 3 figures in a house that breathes around them. The fire whispers softly. The rats move beneath the floor, slower than before, but still present. The wind circles the house like a tired old visitor who has forgotten why it came, and the village folds tighter again, smaller, lighter, like a hollow circle drawing quietly towards its center. Still here. For now.
The village has grown so thin you barely recognize its shape. Not because the houses are gone. They still stand. The roofs still lean. The doors still carry their pale ribbons. But the feeling of place, of presence, has slipped away. It's as though you're living inside the outline of something that once was, an old drawing left too long in the rain. Faint edges, no color, only soft gray lines floating in the mist. The light this morning's is barely light at all. A dim softness that fills the house but brings no warmth. The fire is little more than coals now, huddled in their own quiet, barely breathing glow. You feed them carefully, breaking what little wood you have left into thin strips. The flame accepts them gently, not hungrily, just enough to remain. Your brother stirs beside you. His breath is quieter than yesterday. So quiet you lean closer to feel it rather than hear it. It's there, still rising, still falling, and so you exhale too, in rhythm with him, as though your breath might lend him strength. Your mother sits silently by the shuttered window. She watches nothing. Her gaze passes through the wood, through the air, as if she sees something you cannot. Or perhaps she sees nothing at all. The space where the world used to live. You open the door carefully. The wind greets you softly, brushing against your cheeks like a cold hand that no longer carries intent. The village stretches before you, familiar but not alive. The black ribbons remain, some now sagging so low they nearly touch the ground, their fabric heavy with moisture, their edges frayed. You walk toward the well. The path you take is no longer worn. No footsteps mark the dirt, only the faint memories of where people once walked, as though the earth itself is trying to forget where they stood. At the well you pause. The stones are slick with damp. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket into the still water. The splash echoes up, like a voice calling from far beneath the ground. You pull it back carefully. the bucket heavier than you expect. Not from the water, from your own tired arms, from the weight of days folding behind you. You look out across the square. The market stalls stand like hollow shells. The church door remains shut. The manor, high on the hill, has not opened its gates in many days. There are no birds now, no stray dogs, only the wind and the dust it carries. You listen carefully for the cart, the familiar creak of wheels, the soft ring of its bell, the voice that once called through the streets. But nothing comes. Not today. Not yesterday. Not for many days. Its absence is full now, a presence in itself, a reminder of how long the world has been quiet. You return to the house. Your brother is awake, his eyes following you as you enter. He tries to sit but falls gently back into his blanket, too light now to hold himself upright. His voice is barely a whisper. "Are we alone?" You kneel beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. The skin beneath your fingers feels thin, like warm paper. You answer softly, with the smallest truth. "We're still here." The words drift gently in the space between you, like a feather carried by slow air. Your mother stirs the pot again. There was little left to stir. The broth is thin, but warm. The act of eating remains, bowls passed, spoons lifted, hands steady. The rhythm matters more than the food itself now. Ritual over sustenance, motion over meaning. When the meal is done, you sit together once more, as you do each day. The fire's light dances faintly on your brother's pale face. Your mother hums her old soft tune, not out of hope, but because silence grows too heavy without it. Outside, the village folds again, tighter, quieter. The shapes remain, but the life behind them has slipped further into the mist. The houses hold no voices. The streets carry no footsteps. The air tastes of earth, of damp wood, and of waiting. And beneath the floorboards, you still hear the faintest rustle of the rats. Their tiny world endures beneath yours, always moving, always whispering. Still here. For now.
The village has stopped asking questions. It no longer wonders who remains behind each door. It no longer waits for bells or carts or voices. The world has simply settled, folded into a stillness that feels almost kind now. Almost. You sit near the fire again. The glow is weaker than yesterday. The woodpile is nearly gone, but the small flame still holds its place, like a last candle at the end of a long ceremony no one attends. Your brother sleeps beside you. His breaths come slow now, long pauses between each rise of his chest. You place your hand gently against him, feeling for the steady push of air. Still here. Thin, but present. Like everything else. Your mother no longer pretends to stir the broth. The pot sits empty. There is nothing left to stretch. But you sit by the hearth anyway, bowls still resting in your hands, because the act of sitting, of holding something, feels like the last familiar shape inside the shrinking world. Outside, nothing moves. The ribbons on the doors have stopped swaying entirely. The wind barely bothers to touch them. Even the air feels settled, heavy with quiet. The streets have grown soft with thin layers of dust, a fine gray blanket tucking the village in. You open the door quietly. The hinges moan softly, but without complaint. The sky is low, pressing gently against the rooftops. Gray on gray. A world without edges, without sound. The well stands in the distance, unchanged. The square holds its breath, like everything else. The cart hasn't passed for many days now. The bell hasn't rung. The chant hasn't called. At first, you listened for it. Then you noticed its absence. Now you no longer expect it at all. The cart has stopped asking too. You step into the street for a moment, breathing in the cool air. It smells of stone and dust and old wood. The faint sweetness lingers too. Soft, constant, familiar. The scent of endings. No footsteps meet yours. No voices follow. You're alone in the open, and you do not feel watched. Even the emptiness feels tired, not cruel, just finished. The village no longer fights to hold itself together. It simply rests. You glance toward the church. Its doors remain shut. The bell rope hangs limp. The tower leans slightly in the gray light. You wonder if anyone still breathes behind those doors. But you do not check. The distance between doors remains sacred, heavy, unspoken. You return home slowly. The house sighs gently as you enter, its old frame adjusting once more to your presence. Your brother opens his eyes as you sit beside him. His voice is barely there. Will the sun come back? You pause. The question feels heavier than he knows. You answer softly, yes. Because even if it doesn't, the promise matters more than the truth now. He closes his eyes again, comforted. Your mother hums faintly, the familiar wordless tune slipping from her lips like breath. Not loud, not full, just enough to keep the silence from pressing too hard against the walls. The fire crackles gently. The rats beneath the floor still move, though more slowly than before. Even their world has grown tired of movement. The house rocks softly as the faintest wind brushes against it, a cradle made of wood and breath and quiet waiting. The world outside holds its shape, a village of still outlines, of silent rooms, of names that have stopped being spoken aloud. And inside your small house, you sit, still breathing, still listening, still here. For now. Morning drifts in without intention. It doesn't arrive. It simply happens. Light presses gently through the cracks in the shutters, pale and soft, like a cloth laid over tired shoulders. You sit still, not because you're resting, but because there is nothing left to rise for. Even the rituals have grown thin. There is no more broth to stir, no fire to feed, only the weight of being here. Your brother breathes beside you. Each breath stretches longer now. The pauses between them make your own lungs tighten. You lean close, watching the fragile rise of his chest. Still here, but slower, the way a candle flickers just before it gives in to the dark. Your mother sits across from you. Her face is soft, her hands resting still in her lap. She hums quietly, barely audible, only enough to remind the room that sound still exists. The tune is familiar, but even it feels distant now,
as though it too is remembering itself slowly. Outside, nothing moves. The village is completely still. The wind has stopped visiting. The ribbons hang lifeless against doors that haven't opened in so long they no longer seem like doors at all. Just part of the quiet walls, part of the shape that remains. You open the door softly, not for purpose but for breath. The air feels heavier today. Cool, but not fresh. It carries the scent you know too well, the sweet, thick smell of long endings. It wraps around you like invisible cloth. The square waits, as always. The well stands patient beneath the gray sky. The stalls, the church, the manor, all still here, but hollow. The cart has long stopped its journey. The bell's silence now feels permanent, like it was never meant to ring again. The village has stopped asking for anything, stopped waiting for anyone. You listen carefully, not for footsteps. You know none will come. Not for voices. You haven't heard another voice in so long that even your own feels strange in your throat. You listen only for breath. For your brother's breath behind you, for your mother's soft hum, for your own heartbeat, steady but tired. Breath has become the only sound that matters now, the only proof of being. You step back inside. The door closes gently behind you with a quiet thump that feels louder than it should. Your mother looks up. Her eyes meet yours. For a brief moment, neither of you speak. There's nothing left to say. Only the silent understanding you've carried for so long, the soft, shared rhythm of waiting. Your brother's eyes flutter open. His voice is thinner than ever, a breath wrapped in words. Are we the last? You pause. The answer floats inside you, heavy and gentle at once. You reach for his hand, folding your fingers around his thin, cool ones, and you whisper back, yes. The word feels lighter once spoken. He closes his eyes again, his face soft, peaceful, satisfied, still here. Your mother hums softly again, the same tune, the only song left in the village, the one that has followed you through every fading bay, a thread tying you to all that has come before, even as the world folds itself smaller around you. The house creaks slightly as the beams settle. The wind offers no reply. Even the rats beneath the floor have grown quiet. You wonder if they're resting too, or simply listening, like you, for the last remaining breaths. The village outside holds its shape, but not its purpose. Its doors remain closed, its streets untouched. A place that remembers people without needing them anymore. A place that has grown comfortable with its own emptiness. You sit quietly, hands holding hands, breaths rising and falling, the hum filling the silence gently. Still here, for now.
The light is even softer today. Not gray, not bright, simply faint. As if even the sun has grown unsure whether there's anything left here worth warming. You don't move much anymore. There is nothing left that needs doing. Only breathing. Only waiting. The air inside the house feels still, heavy with the quiet that has settled so deeply it almost feels solid. Your brother lies beside you, his small hand resting inside yours. His skin is cool but not cold. The weight of his hand is feather light now, His breath comes slow, long pauses between each gentle rise of his chest, pauses that feel longer with each hour. You listen to each one as if it might be the last, counting them in your head like soft beads on an invisible string. Your mother sits across from you, her face calm, distant. Her humming has grown even quieter. The notes fall from her lips like tiny threads of silk, drifting gently into the silence. The tune is barely there, but it is still here, still hers, still yours. The house leans slightly in the wind, though there is barely any wind now, only a faint stirring, like breath, moving through the cracks in the wood. The village outside rests beneath its blanket of dust, unchanged. No doors open, no shutters swing, no carts roll. The world beyond these walls feels like a memory that refuses to fade completely. You glance toward the window. The black ribbons still hang. Their edges are soft now, nearly dissolving into the air around them. They no longer mark anything. They simply exist. Decorations for a silence too deep to explain. Your brother's breathing slows again. Another long pause. You hold your own breath with him, waiting. And then, one more exhale. Thin, small, but real. You release your breath too, matching him, grounding yourself in his rhythm. There is no fear now, no panic, only the softness that comes when you've carried waiting for so long that you've grown gentle with it. Your mother hums again, her voice trembling slightly now, not from sadness, just from weariness. The melody continues like a quiet lullaby for the air itself. You close your eyes briefly, letting the sound wash over you. There are no words, but it carries everything that ever mattered: loss, hope, endurance, love. The rats beneath the floor have gone still. Even their world has paused. The house creaks softly as it breathes alongside you, as though it too understands that this small breath beside you carries the weight of everything left. Your brother opens his eyes once more. His voice is no longer a whisper. It is barely air. "Are you still here?" You squeeze his hand gently, leaning close, your forehead resting against his. Yes, and you mean it. You both are, here, together, still, for now.
The light is barely noticeable today. Just a soft glow behind closed shutters, like the memory of morning rather than morning itself. Even the dust seems to move more slowly, drifting lazily through the still air, unhurried. You sit where you always sit, your back resting against the wooden beam, your hand still wrapped gently around your brother's. His breath has slowed so much now that you wait longer between each rise of his chest. Long enough that you sometimes wonder if it's finished. And then, another faint breath. Small, soft, still here. Your mother hums. The tune trembles now, thin like thread pulled almost too tight, but it holds. Her eyes remain closed as she rocks gently, as if cradling the quiet itself. Outside, the village remains frozen. The wind doesn't visit.
The ribbons no longer stir. The streets have settled fully beneath their soft blanket of dust, their shapes blurring as though they no longer wish to be recognized. The world has stopped asking for attention. It simply allows itself to dissolve, inch by inch, into its own forgetting. You don't open the door anymore. There is nothing out there you haven't seen. The well, the square, the silent windows, the unopened doors. They've all become like the inside of your house, still, familiar, slowly fading. Even the silence feels full now, as if it has taken up permanent residence. Your brother exhales again, but slower than before. Each breath is like a gentle farewell, not fearful, not resisting, just soft acceptance. You lean closer, your voice barely a whisper. "I'm here." And he hears you. His eyes flutter, not quite opening, but enough to let you know your voice reached him, enough to feel your presence, enough to carry him a little further into the quiet. Your mother hums one final time. The tune stretches into a long, soft note that gently fades into silence. She doesn't begin again. The song has served its purpose. It has filled the space as long as it needed to. Now, even the tune rests. The house breathes with you. Wood creaks softly. The faintest breeze slides beneath the door, stirring a few loose strands of straw on the floor. The rats beneath the floorboards have grown silent. Their world has stilled completely now. No more scratching, no more shuffling, only the hush that holds everything in place. Your brother's chest rises once more, and then you wait. You listen, but no breath follows. You hold his small hand a little tighter, not in panic, not in grief, just in quiet, in peace, in love. Your mother opens her eyes. You meet her gaze across the small space between you. No words, no tears, only understanding, only softness. She nods barely, and then closes her eyes again. The house rocks gently under the weight of the stillness. The village outside folds further into its final shape, no longer waiting, no longer watching. The ribbons fade fully into the dust. The doors rest quietly in their frames. The wind no longer tries. The world holds its breath one last time. And you sit, still, quiet, breathing, alone now. But not empty, not yet. Still here. For this moment. For now.